white person.
Sure. Again, in Newark, well, I grew up in Newark.
I wish you had brought some of those photos. I mean, where's your projector and all that, man?
Some other time we'll put the projector together. But we just
try to put the number up there, maybe, because I don't want to down. Because I get into this stuff, man. It's pretty cool.
We just couldn't go downtown. I mean, and we didn't have to go downtown was the issue. We had our barbershop, we had our churches, we had our schools, we had our corner store, we had a pool table, we had basketball courts, we had baseball fields. So there was no need to come out of the community. So it wasn't a case of you're being discriminated against or hated. You didn't go. You just didn't go there. It wasn't part of your world.
Didn't Strom Thurmond's daughter, right? Strom Thurmond, who was the U.S. Senator forever.
Sure.
He had a black mistress, right?
Sure.
And his daughter just never told the story, right? Was it his daughter or?
Never told the story. Absolutely. And finally, it came out by some means.
Have you ever thought about writing a book?
I have focused on lecturing and speaking rather than writing books, and so maybe someday after I
think you should write a book. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Yes, it's just been a pleasure listening to your speaker. I have two very quick questions to ask. One, during slavery, many blacks passed as whites so that they could survive in the white world. Is there any recorded history if any of these individuals reached back as abolitionists? Number two, Paul Lawrence Dunbar, the lounge of Elks 106 was located on the east side. My grandfather played a big role at that lodge. I've been trying to find some history on that lodge, but once they leveled it, it's like it never existed. Do you have any suggestions where I could go to find that information? Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me answer the question about passing for white, which is a wonderful question. The black community has always been stratified in terms of light-skinned blacks and dark-skinned blacks, and the lighter the skin, the more opportunities that we had. The great black leaders of Wilmington, the Hopkins Theater. I mean, John Hopkins was the leader, and he was a light-skinned man, if I may say that. And so there was an advantage to being lighter skin in terms of being able to interact with the white folks and speak their language, et cetera, et cetera. So again, you were saying before, who are you going to pick out as the great black leaders? Well, there was this hierarchy within the black community where it was more normally the lighter skinned blacks or the more educated blacks that were able to interact with the white community. And the money, and you always come back to money, the money was interacting with the white community. I mean, you had to interact, okay? You had to be able to get to even politics. You had to be able to get the political jobs. You had to be able to get the jobs in the factory. You had to be able to do all those kinds of things. And frequently it took a negotiator or an intermediary to do it. And those were, again, folks who
I think I remember, was Walter White?
The NAACP, what the founder of the NAACP was very light-skinned and he, as she said, used to, in some instances, pass for white. And Robert Purvis also, president of the Underground Railroad, used to pass for white.
What about the Elks home?
Don't have that story. Haven't heard that story. I would have to do research. Much of this is in private hands. It's in the hands of the Elks. There's a lot of work we should do on Peter Spencer churches, but somehow that's in the hands of the AUMP or the UAME and isn't part of the public record.
What is the story about the churches that some of the churches you were talking about?
Well, when Pastor D and I were here talking, again, it's an incredible story of, and again, you and I were also talking, we are Englishmen. And you say, well, how can we be Englishmen? We have embraced the English culture, which we have embraced English names. Oliver is an English name, Wolford's an English name, and our religion is English, okay? And so we have to know, how did we make that transition to become Englishmen? How do we accept or how do we buy into having an English name? Why didn't, and some folks have changed their name to Kintakunte or changed their name to, you know, an African name to go back to their origins, which is where we came from. But we, again, found the need for a religion rather than, again, going back to voodoo and witch doctors.
What is your thoughts on that issue, going back to Africa? As a race.
We have to think through the process. And again, this is where I am in my research. We have to rediscover ourselves, if I may say so. And much of my research is rediscovering myself and saying to myself, why am I Methodist? And why do I have an English name? Okay, and why didn't I go to Africa? And why don't I change my name? Okay, you're saying, like, why don't I change my name? Okay, you should go. Everyone should go through these processes as a mature person.
Do you think we do enough history lessons? I mean, because you bring a lot of stuff to the table, right?
Sure.
Do you think we've left a lot of stuff on the table?
Absolutely.
How you doing?
Oh, hi. Who is the guest with Norman?
So, Wolford, how are you doing today?
Fine, thank you.
Do you have a question?
Well, I was just wondering who the guest is.
Okay.
His name is Sylvester Wolford. Are you watching?
Yes, I am.
Okay, do you have a question?
Well, no, I want to listen some more, but I didn't know who I was listening to. Sylvester Wolford.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, good. I'm sorry.
There are organizations out there that I belong to, genealogy societies, where people are looking for their ancestors. And again, we should be doing that, okay? And history is a part of their exploration of themselves and search for themselves. So there are white folks, if I may keep using the term white folks, out there searching for, you know, why they are Irish and why they are Catholic and what it means to be a Catholic and what it means to be of Irish descent. And we have to be in that same exploration, okay? Because as you keep saying, you know,
why do you keep putting on me? What about what he's saying? How you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm quoting you. You keep let me quote Norman for a minute. Norman keeps saying that we don't stand for something, we can fall for anything.
How you doing?
Okay.
Welcome to the show.
Hey Norm, good evening, and good evening, Mr. Wolford. Mike Riley here.
Good to hear from you.
Enjoying the program tonight. You know, one of the things that I'm currently engaged in is rediscovering and, you know, tracing my family history. I know quite a bit which has been passed down by oral history, but you know, I'm willing to do this legwork to get it done. But one of the things I believe that is special and unique among black people is the spirit of us. I can't think of any other culture or race of people who would be able to withstand what was done to us. And it was done to us. We were kidnapped from our homeland. The names were beaten out of us. If you recall, Kunta Kinte, he didn't willingly give up his name. He fought for it. But there were limits, you know. So I just think that it's very important for us to be scholarly, but it's also important for us to be spiritual in our quest for our own identity. And, you know, slavery has still left damaging vestiges among our people.
Wow.
And there's a lot more to say, but I don't want to hog the time. I just wanted to weigh in, okay?
No, that's a good point.
Let me add on to what you said.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay.
Frequently, however, you have to develop a new set of skills. We're in the computer age right now. And so 99% of my research is done on computer. And so we say, well, why do you need a computer to talk about Howard High School when it was all there before? Well, we're in a different age now. And you have to Google Howard High School, and you have to, again, do research on computers, and it has to be stored on computers, and it has to be put in a PowerPoint and all of those kinds of things in order to be able to explain it to folks.
Listen, let me stop. Time off for 1 second, right? Do you think we as, I mean, like I don't know as much knowledge as you do, but I do know a little. But do you think that we lost a whole generation of even understanding Black history or even embracing just history in general? You know, just, I mean, like the conversation you and I are having, right? Do it frustrate you because you speak around, and a lot of times you go in rooms where it's majority white folks.
Sure. Absolutely.
Does that frustrate you?
It does frustrate me, and again, there's nothing out there. And again, I'm trying to stay away from the argument over the Delaware Historical Society, but there's nothing out there.
How do you feel about that?
Well,
hold on, let me go to this call. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening. Leroy Tice calling in. How you doing, Norm?
Hey, Tice, how you doing, buddy?
How you doing? Great Delaware State. Go Hornets.
Hey, go Hornets always and forever. Dr. Wolford, good to talk to you. I'm glad we just brought up the Delaware Historical Society. I was going to go there. But my question specifically is, you know, we really are fortunate to be able to be taught by you, and that's why I always tune in when you're on. But there's going to be a generational transition where Sal Wolford is not going to be available to the next generation. So what do we do about access? I guess three-part. Who pays for it? Where should it be housed? And how should it be accessed? And I'll listen now.
And you know what, Tice? Can you hold for 1 second? Sure. Also, you're from Milford, and I was asking outside here because I had talked to Dr. Turner and I talked to Josephus Clark and others from that area. The history down there is amazing.
Yeah, it tends to be a little richer, and we tend to be more interested down there. And I'm not sure why that is. That's why I'm posing the question to Cy. You know, what's going to happen when there's a generational transition up north? And what do we do to make sure people are interested? And what do we do to ensure that they have access?
Well,
okay, thank you very much.
As we understand, there is a void out there. There is nobody doing this kind of research. And again, the discussion that I had with Pastor D for about an hour is he again asked the question, who's going to do it? And I said, it's on us. And I'm working for free. Mm-hmm. I know you don't understand the concept. This is a
I've been working for free for
I'm introduced. This is not slavery. Okay, this is something else.
I don't know. Sometimes I feel like you're going there.
But I'm telling you to talk to you about working for free. Okay.
You know, you've done some work for me. I paid
very
you.
Good. Very good.
I mean, I paid you what you wanted, but
what can I say?
How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Mr. Wolford, I promise you that I didn't time this. This is Pastor D.
How you doing, Pastor D?
Thank you for all of your Norm Gray show. Listen, 2 questions, Mr. Wolford. I was struck by what you said about what you had in the Black community, and there was no need to go downtown, right? So, question, do you think we were shaped, the strong Black people I'm talking about, as much by what we didn't have as we were by what we had? Question 1. And question 2, what would you say today? You alluded to the color thing, the color situation with respect to our people that hinders us, light skin, dark skin, etc. What would you characterize it as today? The problem.
Okay, man, go give that baby a hug for me.
Let me start off with the first question. And the first question is, when we had segregated communities, were we stronger than we are today? And the answer is we were stronger. We were a family. It was a family. We were locked into being a family. The east side of Wilmington had doctors and lawyers and dentists, and the money circulated, and you know money, we coming back to money, the money circulated within the community. You went to the doctor came over and had you wash his car. Okay, and he went to the dentist. The dentist had you pick up his groceries, and there was money circulating within the community. That circulation of money isn't taking place. All the money's going outside to Wawa and Walmart and whatever, and there's no money circulating in the community, and those folks don't have a sense of conscience in order to provide jobs for our community who are the consumers of their product. Okay?
They don't care.
And they don't care. In terms of racial stratification, the issue is that we do not have a sense of brotherhood. So everybody belongs to their community wherever they live. We call ourselves.
But that's the world we live in now, though.
Well, that's right. to where we're living in.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, mine was a little bit different than Pastor D's. I was just saying that I think it was Marcus Garvey. Someone said, without a person without knowledge of their history is like a tree without a limb or something like that. I forgot exactly what he said. So that's where I was coming from, just understanding where you come from. Because, I mean, like, my son, your son, they're in a different world.
Oh, absolutely.
So, I mean, raise some of that stuff. They don't even know what the hell you're talking about.
Absolutely.
How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Good evening. Dr. Wilford, the Underground Railroad, how many presidents exactly were involved? I have a president by the name of Levi Coffin.
Yes.
Now, he was down in Louisiana. I heard you say at the beginning of this program that someone was responsible for the money. Now, which part did Kaufman play, and which part did the other person play that you said was involved with?
God, you're doing more research than mine. You're doing my research for me. Coffin was out in Indiana, okay? And Coffin was called the president of the Underground Railroad, and he was also called running Grand Central Station through his house. He was the conduit, okay, from the slaves coming out of the South and also coming from Philadelphia, we have learned, into Canada. The Underground Railroad terminated in Canada. So Coffin was the guy who had the link between the United States and Canada. And the slaves had to get to Canada because the fugitive slave law allowed the slave holders and the slave catchers to go through all the northern states and in some instances go up to Canada. I declared, or I said also, and you can Google this, Robert Purvis was also considered the president of the Underground Railroad. Now, again, it seems like we're in a conflict or contradiction. There really were no titles to these folks. But if you Google the Lombard Street riots, and this is how I can tell, Norman and I can tell what happened in history. When you see smoke and smell the smoke and see something burning down, you know that's where something's happening. Purvis, along with Richard Allen, who was also on Lombard Street in Philadelphia, were running the Underground Railroad, and they had slaves in all the houses, in all of the buildings, and they were having a celebration because the British, again, had banned slavery in all of the Commonwealth. So,
who's this calling?
Jerome Saunders.
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
How you doing?
How you doing, cuz?
How you doing?
Okay. There was a riot on Lombard Street, okay? And the Irish, the issue is there are problems in conflicts because the free blacks who went to Philadelphia were taking the jobs of the poor Irish. And the poor Irish said, we don't want any more runaway slaves or free stays up here in Philadelphia. They're taking their job. They're driving down wages. Okay?
Okay, one more question. Do you have any information on Dr. Carter Woodson, the founder of the supposed to be the Black History Month?
There was a guy who came to Wilmington and gave an incredible presentation on why do we need Black History Month. If you go in and Google why just a month, you will end up with an incredible amount of information on why we still need Black History Month.
Hey, thank you for your call.
Thank you.
Now, see, we get intelligent callers, man. I mean, we think I just sit up here and just go through
what
stuff.
What can I say? A scholar. We need scholars.
I mean, but he's right. I mean, you talk about Carter G. Woodson, George Washington Carver, all these guys. I mean, but like I said, this is after some of the research that you're doing.
Again, this is a continuous process. We again have to. My niece taught me something.
Do you go to many schools and talk?
What's that?
Do you go to many schools and give presentations?
Off and on. I've been to the University of Delaware and spoke to a class. I'm going to Newark High School. I'm going to several schools, so I am in school.
What about Delaware State?
They haven't invited me. Let me go back to what my niece taught me, which is important to all of us. Is that education is a continuum, and we should continuously be in an education process, an education mood, trying to learn something.
Wow, this is interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I have to tell you, we do have time for a few more calls, but I think Sylvester Wolford gives us incredible information. And you know, and I was in Arnold's a couple of days ago, and I was talking to a guy. He was like, man, I just enjoy the conversation when your friend comes on. He calls you my friend. Can you believe that? You know, have you studied the history of blacks, like politically in the state of Delaware? Have you done any of that?
I'm just not into that era. I'm before 1900.
Yeah, so
we'd have any politicians before 1900.
How you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm turning my TV down. Wait a minute.
Okay. Yeah, but that's good stuff, man.
Okay.
You can talk to Kenyon Camper about 1900s.
How you doing?
Hi. Yeah, can you go there about the Delaware Historical Society? I'd like to hear what you have to say on that.
Yeah, so would I. Thank you.
Well, the answer to the question is they're not going to do it. We have to do it ourselves. I mean, if we expect them to write the history the way it should be done.
So who was right and who was wrong on should have been?
I'd like to know from Brother Wolford, what is the true situation at 107C, the Hockessin School?
Mr. Gilliam, it's good to hear from you. It is good to talk to you, and it's good to have this conversation with you. All I can say is I'm working as hard as I can. I'm working day and night. I'm working overtime to try to get the thing done.
You are not, as I understand it, what is the situation? Is it resolved or is it not? What is going on?
The title, again, is being transferred to another nonprofit organization, which will either be headed up...
Is the situation resolved? Answer my question.
The conflict is resolved. There are issues of fundraising which we have to address so that we are all on the same team. We are all playing ball together, we're all on the same team, and we're trying to do what's best for the community and for everyone involved. There's no more fighting going on.
It's not. Now, what are you going to do about raising the money for operations?
I'm sure we will be coming to you to have that discussion.
Say what again?
Said he didn't hear. Norman will tell you what I just said.
Mr. Gilliam, he said he's going to be coming to you to resolve that situation.
All right.
We have a lot of work to do.
All right, thank you for the call. So you don't know who's listening to you, man. So you got to have accurate information here. How you doing? Welcome to the...
How you doing? Norm, I thought I heard you guys talking about the Eltome. Now, weren't your family prominent in the Eltome, the Hollises?
Yeah, my grandfather.
I know, because that's what I remember. You didn't pick up on it. I thought he was, I said, no, them Hollises, I was trying to go back. I said, yeah.
Bear Hollis, yeah, that's why.
Yep.
I mean, you got to understand, but I was like, what, 2 years old, one?
Well,
so.
It's still your family.
Yeah, no, but that's why I was hoping that he did. But you know what? But next week when we have Kenyon Camper on and Herman Holloway Jr., I'm sure those guys will have a lot of information on that.
Right,
but Ms. Harris, well, you would know it. Why don't you tell me? you talking about the huckabuck and all that. You calling here with all that.
I told you I'm still going to show you how to do that. Yeah.
That's right.
Go ahead and get somebody else on.
Thank you for your call. Yeah, but So that one issue that Mr. Gilliam is talking about, and I think you and I touched on it just a little bit, the Hockessin School, you got a lot of stuff resolved, but now the operations and the fundraising is a whole nother animal.
Right. There's a lot of work to be done. Again, you have, I'm sure, have picked up on some of the issues. There was money borrowed from the African American Empowerment Fund, which has to be returned to them. We have a plan for building the building the way it should be done. But we're talking significant amounts of money, $1 million, $1.5 million, which is not going to be that easy to
well, just write a check, man. You get big money.
Right. So there's work to be done. Which
can I thank you? Thank you so very much.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, you and I talk a lot, and sometimes we laugh and joke a lot. But I think the information that you provide on my show and the information that you've provided the last 3 weeks is irreplaceable. And I thank you from my heart. And I'm sure my
hopefully
viewers
I'm inspiring other people to learn who Coffin is.
Yeah.
There's somebody who knows where Coffin is.
You throw out a lot of good information.
Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, as I began this show, there's a lot of stuff that's happening in county council, county executive officers. Hope to catch up with Reverend Bullock to find out what he thinks on some of this stuff. I know that it's a learning curve for him, and he hasn't really been out there saying one way or another, but I would like to know his opinion on some of this stuff. I'd like to know the opinion of some of the folks, what's going on with Connections, Loretta Walsh, and some of the city council folks, because we can have folks getting grants for $500,000 and they want it. I mean, it may not be true, so I don't really want to talk about that issue. The Democratic Party, is going to be interesting to see what happens because you got a lot of outsiders who are not a part of the good old boy network. I mean, I don't look at the Rev, I don't look at Dennis, I don't look at Tom, I don't look at Chip. Not even Jack Markell to that degree is some of those, insiders. So, but again, because the Republican Party can't get out of their own way, they do what they want. But we have so many issues concerning our community. I'm sorry. When you have the shootings and you have young men, I mean, it almost looks like the Scottsboro boys when you look at the paper. Sure. We didn't even talk about that kind of stuff, the Scottsboro boys and, Emmett Till, just so much stuff that really transformed the history of our country. And to look at these young black males, this black on black crime, we have to figure out a way to do something about it, and that takes us all. All right, ladies and gentlemen, catch us next week. The folks who watched in the basketball game just missed a good show. Thanks, Si.
You cannot receive a pardon until, one, you've completed your sentence, whether it's a sentence or probation.
That's correct.
But how many years is it?
Well, there is no written set amount of years. As soon as you complete your sentence, you can apply for a pardon. But the Board of Pardons looks for, depending upon the charge, the amount of time between the last